That they are very well aware of the situation that's unfolding here. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of panic in this area right now as people are trying to figure out what's going on. Obviously, these parents are trying to think about their kids if they're going to school right next door. We talked about how first day of school was just 2 days ago.
The journalist shared her encounter with crime in Washington during President Trump's cabinet meeting Tuesday as National Guard troops continue to patrol the city. Matt Finn has more.
Iris Tao is a White House reporter for NTD-TV. Tao says she was robbed at gunpoint during the daytime by a man in a ski mask who demanded she turn over her valuables, but she refused.
And that has deeply traumatized myself and my family. Ever since, I've never dared to walk in the street of D.C. at night, ever.
The Trump administration is touting the National Guard's activation, saying it's transforming D.C. U.S. Attorney Pam Bondi posting there's been nearly 1,100 arrests and 115 illegal guns seized since the Guard was activated 2 weeks ago. But the National Guard's presence is being met with opposition.
The Native American Guardians Association is calling on one high school to keep their Thunderbird logo as the state of New York pushes to ban indigenous imagery. Association Vice President Frank Blackcloud says a small minority of woke individuals wants to take away Native American history and culture.
Poll and poll has been done over and over, and American Indians do not find this offensive whatsoever. In Connecticut, they're not even listening to their own constituents because over 60% of them didn't want to change the name. So I don't know where they're getting this idea that they've negotiated. They really haven't. They've never reached out to us. We've reached out to them. And it's about time that America stands with us because we are not offended by this stuff. It's a small minority that get their feelings hurt over things like this. Bad for those because they were raised to be victims. The 90% of us aren't raised to be victims. We're raised to be warriors, chiefs.
A school says a student is allowed to decorate her personal parking spot with Bible verses and Bible imagery, according to an attorney. Bronson Woodruff reports.
We reported previously about high school senior Sabrina Steffens being told by the Grand Island Central School District in New York that she could not decorate her personal parking spot with Bible verses and Bible imagery. Keisha Russell is senior counsel for First Liberty Institute.
Sabrina was forbidden from putting any of the religious references on the parking space, and now this school has reversed course and allowed her to pick the very first design that she wanted.
She explained how Sabrina had submitted 3 different designs after the school kept telling her to make changes, minimizing or otherwise altering the religious messaging. Russell explained previously that her team at First Liberty sent a letter to the school saying leadership cannot discriminate against religious messages, that this was definitely a case of the government infringing on Sabrina's rights.
They asked for time to look things over and investigate, and then the next time we heard from them, they said, we don't agree that we're doing anything wrong. This came by a message via email that they don't agree that they're doing anything wrong, but nevertheless, to avoid costly litigation, they will allow Sabrina to paint the designs on her spot. So there wasn't a lot of conversation back and forth. But nevertheless, we're very excited about it, and Sabrina is very, very grateful.
I'm Bronson Woodruff.
Wall Street is holding steady at the open of trading ahead of a highly anticipated earnings update from NVIDIA. The S&P 500 fell less than 0.1% today, and the NASDAQ Composite slipped 0.1%. The Dow gained 15 points. More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty P.
The mission of American Family Association is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of American culture and give aid to the church here and abroad in its task of fulfilling the Great Commission. Further, AFA believes this ministry, as well as everything in the heavens and on the earth, belongs to God, and AFA's role is that of a trusted manager.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. This is Wednesday, August the 27th, 2025. And as always, we thank you for listening to American Family Radio. In studio with me is Ed Battagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, sir.
Wesley Wildman.
Good morning.
And Fred Jackson.
Good morning, Tim.
And Fred, we got some sad news to report to start the day, right?
Yeah, we do. It's a Catholic school in Minneapolis. A shooter there this morning. We're just starting to get details. The shooter is contained, police are saying, but there are also reports of multiple injuries at this school. As I say, it's a Catholic school. It's at the Annunciation Church. I believe it's in the south side of Minneapolis. Most of the major networks right now are doing live coverage from the scene. This happened about 8:30 this morning, they say, Minneapolis time. I guess at this Catholic school, they have a mass on Wednesday mornings about this time. And apparently someone, and that's about all we know, and neighbors are reporting hearing gunshots, multiple gunshots. What we're seeing right now is parents are beginning to show up, and their kids are starting to stream out. You see these kids in their school uniforms, and obviously for parents who have been able to get their kids, they are relieved. But there's got to be a whole lot of other parents that are being told your child is at least injured, and that's what's taking place right now. A lot of stuff unfolding. We'll try to keep you up to date as the morning goes along.
But the suspect is dead.
The term that's being used is contained.
Okay.
That's the official.
And some sources are, some news outlets are reporting that a source said that the shooter is dead, but that is not official. So he's contained is what the official statement is. I've obviously never been in a situation like this as a young person, but school is just starting. Where do you go from here after let's say all these kids, hopefully the victims all survive, but do you call off the school year? I mean, how do you get back to normal after something like this? Every time you walk into that school, you're going to be reminded of the terror of that day.
I would imagine that they postpone the starting of school for a month, and they'll probably have to shorten their holidays or go through the summer of next year or try to do a lot of work at home. But I couldn't imagine going back within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
At minimum.
And they'll probably make counseling available and so on and so forth.
So this just happened, an hour or so ago and a couple of hours ago?
What we're hearing is, as I say, on Wednesday mornings at this Catholic school, they have a mass service.
Right.
So that was at 8:30 this morning. That's when it's been reported that the shooting broke out.
The shooter is dead on self-inflicted gunshot wound is what MSNBC is reporting at the bottom of their screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll wait and see. But when you have a large gathering of one gathering, meaning in one place, I'm gonna speculate, and probably no reason to do that. But my mind starts to think that this is somebody who knew that all these kids were going to be in one place. Maybe it was a fellow student. Who was angry or something. We'll find out more. Probably pretty quick.
The suspect has not been publicly identified, so we don't know anything about. We don't know the age or background or.
But this could happen anywhere.
Yeah.
At any time. Really.
Yeah. We'll wait and like we've been saying over and over again, more information. But it would be good if schools had a police officer that was paid with a firearm, and hopefully they had that. Hopefully,
they may have,
and that would be because you need security at these schools. You need that.
But even that, would not necessarily prevent.
No, it wouldn't prevent it, but it could minimize
deter. Or minimize. Yeah.
Some of the sources I've been reading just before coming into the studio, there have been multiple incidents in the last 24 hours of shootings. In fact, one at 2:30 this morning on the streets of Minneapolis. It's interesting. The Democratic National Committee, the DNC, is holding its annual meeting in Minneapolis right now. And we've talked about the speeches coming out of there. The governor of Minneapolis, Tim Walz, all condemning President Trump for focusing on crime, on violent crime. And it's hard to you cannot deny that this is happening in Chicago, in Baltimore, all of these cities. Yet the big stories in the mainstream media is, how dare Trump talk about, and of course Democrats are saying it's not as bad as Trump is saying.
Right.
You know, crime is under control, but here you have it in Minneapolis this morning. And, one of the questions being asked right now, do they have security at this school? Mm-hmm. Is there somebody there? Because unfortunately,
I'll bet you they do. At a
I would hope.
Large Catholic school like that, I would,
so.
Yeah.
But like you said, we'll find out. But yeah, the irony is they're meeting in Minneapolis talking about how Trump is, making violence more of a deal than it really is.
Yes.
And especially in these big cities. And here we have this happen this morning.
And we have, it's interesting, we have on our site this morning, afn.net, the latest AP NORC poll, which says 81% of Americans agree with the president on this, that we are facing violence across the country, especially in big cities. 81%.
By the way, just FYI, the CNN and MSNBC are both reporting that the shooter is dead. So anyway, for what that's worth. What was the statistic you were citing, Fred?
Well, this is an AP NORC poll. We have this story. It's an Associated Press story this morning on afn.net. They took a poll. 81% of Americans agree with the president that we have a problem with violence in this country, especially in big cities. And yes, most of the big cities being talked about are Democrat-controlled.
Well, it's gun violence, Fred, and guns are notorious for
moving about,
getting up, having a mind of their own, and committing acts of carnage and violence. That if we can get rid of said guns, would solve the problem.
Then gun violence would end.
Gun violence would end.
That's the implication of it.
Yeah.
That is kind of what Fred's talking about. And again, this is on afn.net, American Family News. This is pretty stunning. You don't usually, because 81%.
You mean the survey?
Yes, 81% see crime as a major problem in large cities. You're getting close to everyone being in agreement. That's rare, politically speaking,
right.
In terms of, conservatives, liberals, people in the middle. You get 81% of Americans agreeing on anything. That's a real issue. And I'm surprised it is that high, but not surprised because it is an issue in these large cities.
This is going to be interesting to see if President Trump's use of the National Guard and federalizing the policing in the District of Columbia, which I agree with and we agree with because it's the capital and it's a federal city. It's the federal city. It's not a state. So that's a different situation. President Trump's use of the National Guard, I think, than say in Chicago or Boston or New York or somewhere like that. We could talk about, and we are going to talk about that with Abraham Hamilton about the constitutionality of what is the authority that a president has to use the National Guard. But that aside, the question of the constitutionality aside, there's no question now that this is being effective.
Right, the model's there. And it's being proven, and he has at least for D.C., he has the constitutional authority to practice or try or do something different than what was being done, and apparently it's working. So,
okay, here's what my point is. It's going to be interesting to see if any Democrat mayor or governor in America sees the effectiveness of what Trump has done here in Washington, D.C., and seen violence go way down as a result. Haven't had a murder in, 13, 14 days or something like that?
That is correct, yeah.
In Washington, D.C., which is unheard of. Will Democrat voters in these states and cities, these blue states and cities, demand law and order and say, look, we want to do like what Trump did in D.C. We want more policing, more of a police presence, maybe even the National Guard in Chicago, but it would have to be called out by the governor. But I doubt they would do that at all because they would be they would be accused of agreeing with Trump's methods.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and they would be admitting that they're not doing a good job. The city council, the prosecutors, the police. I feel bad for the police in these big cities. I'm guessing that they want to crack down on crime, but they turn these people over to the prosecutors, the district attorneys, and to to have these people jailed. They're released right away. Some of these cops are probably picking up the same people time after time because they're out on cashless bail, and then they're let off with a slap on the wrist. That's going to be very frustrating for them. But for them they would have to admit that they're doing a bad job in their city, and that's why they need to change methods.
However, it's kind of odd. I don't know, maybe that's not the right word. Okay, what I'm about to say sounds crazy, but I don't know how it's inexplicable to me that the citizens in these cities continue to vote for mayors and aldermen and city councilmen and prosecutors who are soft on crime. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like you're going to denounce criminal activity in our area, somebody do something, and then when there's something that can be done, you say, no, I don't want that. I want to vote for somebody who's going to let them out of, who's going to be for cashless bail and let the criminals be
with rap sheets.
Would let them run the streets. So how does that make sense?
Well, you got to wonder then, if that's the case, how many people live in these areas that can vote, that it matters to them then. Because, you know what I mean? Like, I wonder if the people that are affected by the crime live outside the voting register.
No, the biggest black on black crime is a major statistic.
Well, I'm saying the people that
in the inner cities.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I think a lot of people that do work in the inner cities that would say there's a problem, they don't live there, even though they agree. So they can't vote to change the
because they live outside the area. But why would
anyway?
We're asking a question that there's not a good answer to, and that is why do the people who live in these crime-infested cities keep voting for the same people who don't do anything about it?
I do have something to offer. I don't know whether this.
You want to share your heart?
I want to share. I want to share my heart.
Okay, share your heart, Ed.
I think that since the George Floyd incident in Minneapolis in 2020, a lot of folks in these big blue cities bought the lie that the young black men that are being arrested for committing crimes, that are being put in prison, in their minds, they're being told it's at a disproportionate rate. It's because of racism. The police hate black people, even though there are a lot of black police officers in inner city police departments. And so they buy the lie that why all this crime is happening. It's happening because of systemic racism and we don't have enough money. They buy that and then they vote accordingly.
Okay.
And they vote for the people who say, well, we got to defund the police.
Okay.
Or we need to try to right the injustices that have been going on. So cashless bail, they're all for it. And then they realize human nature kicks in and the crime goes through the roof. And then you have even Democratic politicians who fall victim to the crimes, and then they start to complain about it. You remember there was a state legislator in Minnesota who was carjacked.
Right.
And then she was like, where are the police? Okay. Reality dawns on
She was for defunding the police.
Yes. It's extraordinary. But I think they're buying the lie and voting accordingly. And then all of a sudden crime goes up everywhere. And now they're realizing perhaps the foolishness of their actions.
Just to update our audience on this shooting at this Minneapolis Catholic school, Fox News now reporting 15 to 20 injured. Wow. These are young kids. We're talking 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds that we're seeing that are coming out of the school.
Do they not have gun control in
BBC, by the way, is
saying 3.
BBC is saying 3 dead.
Yes.
So
what? Who's saying that?
That's the BBC. I'm looking at their news feed on this.
Okay, probably not the time for sarcasm, so I'll pull that
tomorrow.
Yeah, because people have died, so I apologize for saying that. But my point is, on a serious note, that these cities and states that pass all these gun control laws are not acknowledging human nature. They're pretending like the guns are the problem,
and they're taking it away from
and not the people and the individuals who are using the guns.
Well, to your point, I heard Bishop Jackson this morning. He's hosting Jenna Ellis's show this week. He mentioned that in the short amount of time that Trump has had National Guard troops in D.C., they have confiscated 115 illegal guns.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
wouldn't the left be for that?
Well, that's actually what
point.
Bishop Jackson was saying. He said, "Why isn't the media or the Democratic Party applauding that?" But the fact that there were 115 guns illegally in violation of the gun control laws in D.C. should make it clear that forbidding law-abiding citizens from having guns, owning them legally, is not stopping the criminals from having them. So they took 115 guns held illegally from people who have been arrested, and that proves that the criminals are getting guns and they are using them in crimes.
Well, again, the top story we're talking about happened a couple of hours ago, I guess, maybe even less, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Somebody went in and shot a bunch of students at a Catholic school in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and some are dead. The news media is reporting.
At least one media outlet is reporting.
And the shooter himself or herself, I
Pretty
guess
dead.
you could say, is dead.
Related to all of this, we talked about the Democrats are meeting there in Minneapolis, but also, of course, what Trump has had to say about cities like Chicago, that's certainly in the news. But here's the other problem. The mainstream media, including the Associated Press, is only covering stories of complaints from Democrats against Trump. They are not telling the whole story. It was very interesting this morning on our newscast from Chicago. We had Pastor Corey Brooks, and he's been on Fox a number of times. But listen to what he has to say. He's a black pastor there in Chicago. Listen to what he has to say about the need that Chicago has right now for the kinds of things that are going on under Trump's direction in Washington, D.C. Cut number 4.
We need to invite President Trump in. We invite the National Guard in. We've had 254 deaths in 233 days. 80% of those have been black boys. And for anyone in our community to say that things are getting better and that people are safe, that is an outright lie. We need to do any and everything we can to keep our citizens safe. One of the number one priorities of government is to make sure that the citizens of America stay safe. And that should be the number one priority of the governor and the mayor, but it's not, because the only thing that they're really concerned when it comes to black lives that matter is black lives that matter that vote.
And to his point, Mayor Johnson of Chicago and the governor of Illinois, Pritzker, listen to what they have to say about Trump talking about coming in to try to help Chicago. Cut number 2.
We are being targeted because of what and who we represent.
Mr. President, do not come to Chicago.
I'm willing to go to Chicago, which is a big trouble, but we have a governor that refuses to admit he has problems.
Yeah, so the politicians say, we can handle this. You have Pastor Corey Brooks say, we need it. Okay. Did you hear the statistic that he mentioned there? 254 dead, mostly
in like
young
230-something days.
Mostly young black men.
80%, he said.
Yeah.
Yet, the black community keeps voting for the Democrats.
Yeah.
On these issues, who are opposed to cracking down on crime.
Well, and I'm
talking about the black voters in the inner city. They're going to vote for the Democrat this mayor and this governor, they're going to get the vast majority of votes from the African American community.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that the murder numbers are bad enough.
Yeah.
That does not include carjackings or armed robberies. And then setting aside the actual crimes that are being committed, how do you tabulate the fact that most of the citizens in Chicago live in fear every day? You know what? This goes on for years in these inner cities. I've read where some of the worst parts of like Atlanta or Memphis or Chicago, where when they go to bed at night, sometimes moms put their kids to sleep in the bathtub because of drive-by shootings. Now that is hard to tabulate the numbers, but how in the world does the number you cited from the poll, Fred, 81% think that there's a problem. Yeah. I'm guessing the 19% that don't include the criminals who are committing the crimes and the politicians who refuse to admit that there's a problem.
One person who has not committed any crimes who was almost canceled was Uncle Herschel.
Yes.
And of Cracker Barrel fame.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? But we have good news to report. Fred, over to you.
Partially good news.
Yes.
Partially good news. Uncle Herschel has survived.
Yes. Yesterday afternoon, the CEO of Cracker Barrel decided maybe this wasn't such a great idea. So they're going back to the old branding of Cracker Barrel with Uncle Hirsch sitting there. And
he has a breakfast on the menu, too. That
yes.
I don't know if that was going to be gone.
Yes.
But I don't think it was. But
that
he was the old man leaning against the Cracker Barrel, which is the signature of the restaurant chain.
Has
Cracker
been for
Barrel,
years.
In his overalls, signifying, a country feel, a rural feel to the restaurant, and that's going to stay.
That's going to stay.
On the.
But to Wesley's point, it is only a partial victory because the rest of the changes are going forward. So the complete redesign of the inside of the restaurants, who knows what else.
Let me ask you this question, and far be it for me to play the devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
But and I'm not saying Uncle Herschel's the devil,
right?
Or even this one. What's wrong with redecorating the inside of your store? I don't see that.
Would you a woke communist? Okay.
I'm sharing my heart, Ed, and you're mocking me, and I don't ever mock you.
All right. Okay, so here's my take on it.
Yeah.
This was all being done to change the look of the logo and the inside of the restaurants, to move the restaurant away from this old country feel, and make it so that it in their minds looks less white.
Which would include the LGBT rainbow rocking chairs will stay, Dad. I mean, so
which they actually had.
Yeah, so there's way more than just
there's rainbow rocking chairs.
This is different than painting the inside. Okay,
well,
it's not a facelift.
Well, that's the reason I'm not able to teach my grandchildren there how to play checkers anymore because they're not red and black like they used to be. They're all rainbow colors.
Well, and by the way, that was E.W. Jackson's take on trying to make the restaurant look less white. You know, they changed the wording on the little game, the little peg game.
I don't want to talk about that. Yeah. By the way, the checkers are still red and black folks.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
I went into a business to see a buddy of mine not long ago. While I was talking with him, I noticed a rock about the size of my fist on a counter. On the rock was written the words, "Number 1." Now, I was curious as to what those words meant. I tried to figure it out, but finally gave up and asked my friend about the meaning. He told me it was the first stone. I was still puzzled by it all and was racking my brain to tie together the significance. Then he told me the story of the woman caught in the act of adultery who was brought to Jesus. The law required that the woman be stoned to death. Stoning was the Jewish method of execution. Those in the crowd asked Jesus what to do with the woman. Their desire was to stone her. Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dirt. Then he looked up and answered them, "Let the person among you who is without sin throw the first stone." Well, one by one, they all walked away. Then Jesus forgave the woman and told her not to sin again. The first stone. You know, it might not be a bad idea if we all had a first stone lying around close to remind us of our need to forgive. It's awfully easy sometimes to see the other person's sin while ignoring our own. Too often we can get so pious and perfect that it causes us to look down on another in scorn and shame. When we get to be that holy, we're too holy. There was always in the heart of the Galilean a spot reserved for forgiveness and compassion. A wise person once said upon seeing another in a very bad condition, "There, except by the grace of God, am I." We're taught to pray, "Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sinned against us." In other words, our forgiveness depends on our forgiving. If we can't forgive, then don't expect any forgiveness. It takes no special talent to forgive. You don't have to have the mind of a genius. Only a loving and compassionate heart. And that comes from attitude and practice, not from great knowledge. Let the person among you who is without sin throw the first stone. It's good to remember that when we are ready to condemn another. For it's so easy to do, this casting of stones, and often so tempting. I think I'm going to get a rock and put it on my desk. On it I will write the first stone. Then, when I'm inclined to throw verbal stones at another who has done wrong, I'll look at that stone and recall the story of Jesus and the woman caught in adultery. I will remember the forgiveness and compassion he had for someone who had done wrong and was sorry. One stone is all I need, for there's no danger I'll ever use it. You see, I don't qualify.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
But he saves the poor from the sword of their mouth and from the hand of the strong. So the helpless has hope, and injustice has shut its mouth.
American Family Radio. This is Today's Issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of Today's Issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of Today's Issues.
Am I on? Is this thing on?
It's real. It's live.
Can you hear me in the back?
Can you hear me now?
Can
you hear me in the back?
All right, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. I'm Tim with Ed, Wesley, and Fred. We thank you for listening, as always, to AFR. Well, joining us right now is Abraham Hamilton III. He's the host of the Hamilton Corner each afternoon, 5 to 6 o'clock Central Time, right here on American Family Radio. And by profession, he is a lawyer, unfortunately. And
well, it's pretty fortunate
no,
for
I'm
us.
sorry. It's fortunate for us, yeah, but no.
Nobody likes a lawyer until you need one.
Had to throw in a lawyer joke.
Yes.
But, anyway, he is a constitutional attorney. He studied, we need more of those, constitutional law in college. Good morning, Abe.
Good morning.
Oh, did I say anything that
offended you?
Offended you there?
Well, I mean, it's making it harder to sit in my rainbow rocking chair.
Uncle Herschel survives.
Yeah, Uncle Herschel.
Yeah, he survived to live another day. Okay, so I want to ask you a question. Before we get to the question of the constitutionality of the president's authority with respect to the National Guard. I want to get to that in a minute, which was the question we gave you. We told you we was going to talk about. I want to ask you something, Abe. We were talking about law and order, crime and punishment, a life in inner city, a big inner city America, and what President Trump is doing in Washington, D.C., employing the National Guard and federalizing basically law enforcement because it is the federal city, and he can do that. But the results seem to be coming in that so far it's working to bring crime down, violent crime down, in particular in Washington, D.C. We were talking about why voters in the inner cities continue to vote for Democrats who are soft on crime. And yet they are the victims of crime. And I ask you this because I know you've looked at it from two different perspectives. You've grew up in the inner city of New Orleans, Louisiana.
Grew up on the mean streets.
Yes.
Literally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's where you grew up. So you experienced that as a child and as a youth, and yet and later in life you got into law enforcement as a district attorney, or is that what it was?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
So you prosecuted crime.
That's right.
Criminals. So I want
Major
to ask,
felonies.
Okay. So I want to ask you, you've seen it from both sides in terms of I don't know if you want to call it liberal, conservative, left, right, whatever you want to call it. But so my first question to you is, why do you think, or is it a misnomer, that people who live in these big cities continue to vote for people who are soft on crime? Is that go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the major things, and you described it right. I grew up in a crime-ridden inner city environment, and one of the things that contributed me going into prosecution was I heard lots of conversations about, well, the system is corrupt, and you have this, you have that. So I said, well, why not be a part of the system and to see it from the inside, you know? But growing up, the simple fact is my hometown, New Orleans, Louisiana, has nothing but Democrat elected officials for over a century. So we never had an opportunity to vote for anybody other than Democrats who were soft on crime. Now, I know lots of people will say, well, they would never vote for a Republican, but I would say, using the Michael Jordan theorem, you miss every shot you don't take. Mm-hmm. How do you know? You know, and right. One thing that I experienced personally is when Governor Bobby Jindal ran for governor in Louisiana. In his first effort, he lost to Kathleen Blanco, and I had an opportunity to talk to him and his staff, and I just said, listen, you need to come to the hood. You need to come and share your ideas in the inner city. And when he did, surprisingly, he had a much larger percentage of support than he had previously. So I think one of the major problems is I think conventional I would say Republican strategies or whatever said, hey, you'll never get a chance. You'll never get any votes. You'll never get any headway in these urban areas. So you should just avoid them. And I think President Trump's campaign shows the error in that thinking, because he got a pretty significant push in places like New Jersey, you know, and other places. So if there is no competing ideology, then the people in those cities have no option to vote for anything other than that. And I think that's a major unspoken contributing factor to this phenomenon.
But you don't have to be a Republican to be for law and order and be against soft on crime. What would you call it? Actions, do you? I mean,
I agree with that. However, in the modern Democrat Party, you have to oppose law and order in order to be supported by the Democrat Party.
Okay.
So I agree with you 100%. You don't have to be soft on crime.
Looking at it from a perspective of somebody who's never lived in the inner city, big inner city like I grew up in, you just scratch your head and you go, why do these people continue to vote
over and over and over
and over and over?
Yeah.
To their own detriment. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And like I said, the unspoken reality is there often is nobody with a countervailing position that is actually running for the office.
Well, and even if you had someone like that run for mayor, you still got to have the city council. Yep. You have to have a clean sweep in one of these blue cities in order to get actual changes in policies, right? Because a mayor's not going to be able to make wholesale changes without like-minded members of the city council, right?
Yeah, you're right. And we experienced that to a degree, but unfortunately, as my old basketball coach used to say, pain stimulates the brain. You know, New York City was a haven of murder and all kinds of things, and it was the pain that led to Rudy Giuliani's election.
Right.
Yeah,
and Rudy Giuliani was elected. Go ahead, Tim.
No, well, he cleaned up the city of New York.
He cleaned up the city of New York, and the New Yorkers enjoyed it. But what did they do after Rudy Giuliani left office?
Yeah.
They rescinded some of the same policy he put into place that led to New York being cleaned up. But it was the cry from the criminality, the pain from the criminality that led to people electing Rudy Giuliani.
One other thing I want to ask you about related to this is Is there not, though, a prevailing suspicion of police in inner city America because maybe there are abuses that get maybe sometimes blown out of proportion, or that really happen, and so the voters are suspicious of giving the police more control and authority? Do you understand my question?
Yeah, I do understand your question, and you do have an element of that in places like I said, my hometown that has been rife for corruption generationally. Right now, as we're talking, New Orleans' mayor is being indicted. Right now, has been indicted under corruption charges, and so you do have that as a contributing factor. But you also have the reality, though, a lot of times in these places, and like where I grew up, people want the police there. They want help from police there. So you do have those competing narratives. But when things get to the place like you all have, like in Chicago and other places, they went from Lori Lightfoot to Brandon Johnson. Right. they didn't have a candidate who was hard on crime that had a law and order disposition. And you see that happening over and over and over because in these urban areas, in municipal politics, you have the Democrat Party that is entrenched much to the exclusion with no countervailing narrative ideologically.
So that makes people like me going, well, then have at it. If you want to vote for this and live in this, that's
the point. That's one of the points I was making earlier, is that you're going to have a lot of people that live and work there, that work there but live elsewhere.
Oh, work in the city but live in the suburbs?
Yeah, because they otherwise would have voted, but they realize they're probably out. I'm just giving you
they're outvoted. They're outvoted.
They're outvoted, so then they just move, and then you get no pushback.
Yeah. Okay, so now the constitutional question we have is what? Phrase it for us, Fred, if you would.
Well, basically, President Trump sees the success of his plan to cut down on crime in Washington, D.C., but he's been talking a whole lot lately, Abe, about I'd like to take this plan and go to violent cities like Chicago and Baltimore and New York. And, of course, the politicians in those cities, the mayors and the governors are saying, ain't no way that's going to happen, and we're just not going to allow it because, by the way, crime is dropping, they say, in all these cities. We're doing a great job here, despite the fact the numbers aren't showing that at all. I guess the question is this: does the president have the constitutional right to send troops into these cities to deal with crime?
And the short answer to that is no. So Washington, D.C. is unique, as you guys know, in our constitutional Republican fabric. D.C. is a federal city. President Trump has the lawful authority to do things in D.C. that he doesn't have in other cities and other locales around the country. The Home Rule Act is the constitutional foundation following the U.S. Constitution, denotion of him as the executive-in-chief, commander-in-chief, as well as the congressional authority allowed to him as commander-in-chief to do that in D.C. However, Chicago and other cities are an entirely different phenomenon. The Posse Comitatus Act of 1878 limits the use of federal military personnel in domestic law enforcement. All right, so you cannot deploy the National Guard from the federal position to engage in domestic law enforcement. However, this is where there could be a challenge, concerns of the separation of powers, because you can deploy the National Guard if they are functioning in a supportive role for local law enforcement. That would presumably require the cooperation of local governors and municipal officials. However, as we saw recently in Los Angeles, as long as they are not actively engaged in the civil law enforcement function, then the National Guard could be deployed. So the question I would have is, if President Trump says he wants to send in the National Guard, the specific question will be, send them in to do what? What are they doing? If they're showing up as just a visible presence, are they showing up to support local law enforcement? Those things may be okay. But if you're deploying them in an effort to be civil law enforcers, that is where you could run afoul of the law.
So even backing up local law enforcement, the federal government, the president can send them in even if the mayor and city council do not want them there?
That's what I was about to ask.
And that is where the question that is where the issue will come to the fore. It will depend, it will turn on specifically what they're doing. So if you have the president saying, we want to send in the National Guard to support local law enforcement, and you have the local law enforcement officials saying, nah, we don't want you, we don't need you to do that, then the question becomes, well, what are you sending them there to do? Yeah. What are you doing? Much of what was done in Los Angeles was nothing beyond simply being a visible presence, that their presence helped to quell some of the rioting and things of that nature. That's something that could possibly be done, but it would one of those things, the devil's in the details. We would need to know specifically what the federal troops are going to do.
But even in Los Angeles, it was different because that was ICE doing their job, wasn't it? They wasn't necessarily they weren't protecting local law enforcement, were they? They were protecting ICE.
The National Guardsmen?
The National Guardsmen.
Well, no, you had ICE doing their jobs, and then you had a contingent of National Guardsmen responding to the rioting that was happening in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I the constitutionality question aside, I just think it would be a bad idea all the way around for President Trump to try to start sending National Guardsmen to cities of America like
I don't
Chicago
think he's going to do that.
I don't think he's going to do it either, but he brings it up. As a possibility,
and that's why.
Of course, he's the master of trolling. President Trump is, so he'll say something that's inflammatory just to watch the head spin off. Now, sometimes I enjoy that spectacle too.
Yes.
when the liberals' heads start spinning off heads, it's really fun to watch.
Yes, it is.
But at the same time, sometimes I wish, please just dial it back a little bit so that we don't get into where I'm going to have to tell you I agree with the liberals that you're wrong constitutionality. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. And this is an issue, Tim. This is an issue that our founders debated. This was a part of the concern expressed in the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia concerning standing armies. If we had the capacity to repel the global superpower at the time, Great Britain, what will keep us from having a national army to enslave our own citizens locally? You know? And so,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying. And so the whole idea of having a national police force is something that our founders rejected out of hand immediately. And if you look at tyrannical regimes around the world, that's what they have. National police in Venezuela, national police in Mexico, national police in these other places. And that is not something, the federal, that is something that I would be among the first people to object to if you would dispatch our soldiers for domestic law enforcement.
The only way this would work constitutionally, it seems to me, would be if you had, let's say Chicago, Illinois, for example. If the mayor and the governor, one or the other, well, it would have to be the governor to call out the National Guard. The governor of the state of Illinois says Chicago is out of control with violent crime. We're going to crack down. So I, the governor of Illinois, am calling up 1,000 National Guardsmen from the state of Illinois to go and support the local police department. Maybe would that kind of scenario be constitutional, or no? Abe, is that
no? That would be constitutional.
Okay,
that would be constitutional.
But that's what. Don't call. This is where. Anyway, this is not going to happen, as you said. We're talking about something but President Trump brought it up as a possibility. Sure. And the Democrats are reacting to it as you would expect them to. And go ahead.
I was just going to toss in here. I'm appreciative of what President Trump has done in Washington, D.C. I'm happy for the people there that crime seems to have dropped dramatically. But what happens when he pulls them out? D.C. is going to go right back. At the heart of these problems are the policies and practices of the people in charge of these big cities. They're Democrats across the board, and as soon as these National Guard troops go, it's going to return to normal.
I think he's going to probably keep them through his term until
the whole time.
Maybe pull them out.
They may rotate them out.
Or he may pull them out and see what happens.
Yeah.
Subsequent to.
Well, in D.C., in order for him to keep them and rotate them, as you guys are describing, he would have to have congressional approval of that.
So then what's the term then, or what's the limit then?
Yeah, it's 30 days. There's a 30-day
Okay.
provision allowed by the Home Rule Act. Any extension of that time period would have to be the product of a joint resolution.
We'll
from
send them
Congress.
home for 24 hours and start voting. I'm just kidding. I'm messing with you.
You're going to give Trump ideas. He'll
know,
take
right?
advantage of them like that for sure.
Yep.
All right, Abe. Thanks so much. What's coming up
Alrighty,
on
thank you, guys.
what's coming up on your show this afternoon here?
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about Uncle Herschel in
Okay.
the Cracker Barrel, the Cracker
Okay.
Jack box, and the brains of the barrel.
Okay.
And there's also a development. There's a development. President Trump's CDC has just greenlit a COVID vaccine injury study, which is to study those who've been vaccine injured, which I find very interesting because for the longest, President Trump touted, Operation Warp Speed and things of that nature. So to have his CDC to formalize vaccine injury study seems to be an about face on that issue. So that is very interesting. That was one issue that I thought was a vulnerability from President Trump, but it seems to be there's at a minimum a tacit willingness to consider vaccine injury. So we'll talk about that a little bit.
Hold on, clarification. Are you saying that the study's complete, or they're going to do the study?
No, they're going to do it, but within the CDC. So you've had VAERS, and you have others have done things outside of the CDC, but the CDC internally is going to produce its own spate in studying vaccine injury, specifically COVID vaccine injury.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Abe. Talk to you later.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay. That's Abraham Hamilton III joining us on the program. You're listening to Today's Issues. That's the name of the show on AFR. Tim, Ed, Wesley, and Fred. And I was watching Wesley across. He's about 5 feet away from me. Anytime you mention the two words together, COVID vaccine, there's a visceral reaction.
Or mask.
There's a visceral reaction on the part of Wesley. He perks up.
Yeah.
And gets ready to go.
My hair stands up.
Yeah,
You can
your
see
hair
it across
stands
the
up
room.
on his arm.
Like spider sense.
Yes.
That's
yes.
it. That's
Yes,
the best way to describe it on radio.
Yeah.
It's a spider.
Spider sense, Spider-Man.
All right, next story, Fred.
Well, just before we leave Trump in Washington, D.C., his transportation secretary announced this morning, Transportation Secretary Duffy, that as part of what they're doing there in D.C., the feds are going to take over Union Station from Amtrak. Union Station, I haven't been there for a long time, but it's a meeting place in Washington, restaurants and the whole thing. But now they're going to take that over from Amtrak. And he wants to spend $2 billion in D.C. Upgrading the whole city.
To what?
He wants it to be beautiful,
$2
not
billion?
just safe.
$2 billion.
Well, it needs to be beautiful. I mean, it's our
right,
and kept clean and safe. It's our capital, for goodness sakes.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to the Union Station many times. I've never felt unsafe there, but I haven't been there in
It'd be clean.
about 3 years. So, yeah, but they do have nice restaurants there, shops. It's where Amtrak comes in. It's where the Metro, that's the subway system in Washington D.C. That's where they go to as well. So a lot of these cities too are starting to have more and more homeless people, and that's a real problem that they have to contend with. And I'm not sure what all the answers are on that, but you can't let it start. I do know that.
Right.
If you let encampments start, you see I haven't been to Los Angeles in a while.
Or
but
San Francisco.
You see what happens in these cities when they let the encampments start for homeless people, and it just grows and grows, and it becomes an area where people don't want to go to. The surrounding businesses suffer. So you can't let it start. You can't let it start. I feel sorry for the homeless people because
feel sorry for the ones that I don't feel sorry for the people that purposely put themselves there.
Oh no, the ones who just don't want any responsibility.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, when you see people who are obviously mentally ill, or they don't have,
or one bad thing after the other happens.
They had bad luck in life, and
and they're wanting to get out, but
they don't have any family to lean on. Just when you see, of course, I don't go and interview these folks, but I know what you mean. You just wonder, you feel sorry for them. All right, you're listening to Today's Issues, Fred. We got about 5 minutes left. Has Uncle Herschel, by the way, has he had any comment, or does he still?
We need AI for this one.
Okay.
Or not AI, but like a What is it? Yeah, an AI commercial here.
Yeah,
with
for Uncle Herschel.
Yeah.
But with the one of the stories we're talking about here is Cracker Barrel. This is what I'm saying is true. I'm not kidding around. Cracker Barrel did reverse course with an announcement that they're keeping the old man in the. Does he have overalls? Anyway, the old man leaning up against the Cracker Barrel, which that's where they get their name from, which is on the sign of Cracker Barrel as you go down the interstate and see it, or in your hometown. They were going to remove him. He was going to be canceled. And
he was removed.
As was the barrel.
Yes.
The barrel
was gone from the Cracker Barrel logo. I wanted to mention,
but they're back. They're staying.
They are bringing them back.
Yeah.
Because they actually did change the logo. Were forced to crawfish on that. But I had mentioned before the break earlier about the little peg game
at Cracker Barrel.
At Cracker Barrel. Now, obviously, folks, this is not a huge deal, but it goes to the kind of mindset that a lot of people don't like. So the original little peg game where you hop over pegs and you try to get it down to one peg.
Before cell phones, they started that.
Yes.
Now, yeah.
So here's what was written on the little game. If you can leave only one peg, you're a genius. Leave two, and you're pretty smart. Leave three, and you're just plain dumb. Leave four or more, and you're just plain ignorant. You're just a plain ignoramus. Okay, so it was insulting, and I liked that. That reminded me of growing up in New England, where my dad would regularly insult me when I failed at something. So now they changed, and still the peg games remain, but now they have language like, if you leave three or more, don't be embarrassed, try again.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. I'm looking right here at a Fox News story.
That isn't what it says.
It is.
Says what?
They have changed the words. If you leave three or more, instead of being a plain ignoramus, it says, don't be embarrassed, try again. I am opposed to that kind of encouragement on a game. I think it should. You're not going to motivate everyone by giving everybody a trophy.
That's right.
All right. Yeah. So now I'm being serious about they changed the wording on the board game, the little peg game, but I will say my horror at that change is tongue in cheek.
I had a reaction to that the other day at a baseball tournament.
To what?
Well, Wesley coaches youth baseball.
Yeah.
And I have Wesley's son Bennett plays youth baseball, 10-year, and I have 4 other grandsons who now play what's called travel baseball.
Yeah.
Familiar with this?
Oh, yeah.
It's like really competitive youth baseball. Yeah. Anyway, so they had a tournament the other day, and there was like 7 or 8 teams in the tournament. I think 8 teams maybe 9, something like. Anyway, so when they finish the pool, what they call pool play, the first 2 games, then they separate them into brackets.
Winners and losers bracket.
Well, they don't call them that, but yeah, that's what they're basically the console. I call it a consolation tournament.
Yeah,
which is the last 4 teams.
Yeah,
top 4 teams and the winners and the championship, and the other was in the consolation. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
But then they said, well, they're going to give medals. They're going to give rings to the winners of the consolation tournament.
And it looks the exact same as those one in the.
And I said, what?
Come on.
I said, no, you don't give rings to the winners of a consolation.
You don't give winners to lose. You don't give rings to losers.
You let the kids know they're losers, and they'll grow from it. They'll become real men. You know what I'm saying? We'll be back momentarily.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
If God could speak, what would he say? The Bible subjects itself to historical verification.
He says, we saw this. We go to the Bible wanting to hear what the living God has to say to us.
When God speaks, what does he say?
The God who speaks. Visit stream.afa.net. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Police and other first responders are on the scene of what's being described as a tragic shooting at a Catholic church and school in Minneapolis. Officials report that between 15 and 20 people are injured, but no word on fatalities. The shooter is dead. Bill Malusian gives us the latest update.
What I'm being told is a significant amount of victims. Richfield police confirming that officers on scene are reporting 20 victims. There's been some questions about what does it mean with the shooter being, quote, contained. I'm told by a federal law enforcement source that the shooter is, quote, down. I don't know if that means he's dead or if he's arrested and in custody, but I'm being told the shooter is down. If we go a little bit deeper into that post from the Richfield Police Department, on top of saying that officers reported 20 victims, they're saying that the shooter was a man dressed in all black, armed with a rifle. That was reported at the scene. And again, this has been called out as a mass casualty response for EMS. So Aisha, we know how it is with these unfortunate shootings. A lot of the initial numbers are going to be wrong.
This witness lives nearby and describes what he heard.
Well, we live about 2 blocks from here. I was on a call. All the windows of our home were open. I know what gunfire sounds like, and I could tell. I was shocked. I said, "There's no way that could be gunfire." There was so much of it. So it was sporadic. So it was a semi-automatic. It seemed like a rifle.
Minnesota Children's Hospital reports they are treating 6 children, but still no word on fatalities yet. A conservative activist and political analyst says it is unbelievable that Democrats continue to call Donald Trump a Nazi for wanting to protect minority citizens from criminals. Chad Groening has more.
President Trump is proposing sending National Guard troops to big cities like Chicago to deal with the out-of-control crime in the Democrat-run cities. In fact, at least 4 people were murdered and 19 others were wounded in Chicago this past weekend. But as expected, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who has an approval rating of 26%, rejected the idea. He has threatened to take legal action if the president deploys National Guard troops to the Windy City. Gary Bauer is chairman of the Campaign for Working Families. He says the socialists and neo-Marxists who control today's Democrat Party continue to fall on their swords for all the wrong people.
The president has repeatedly said he wants to help. And instead of Democrat mayors and other elected officials saying, we understand there's a problem, they not only turn him down, they won't even acknowledge they have a problem, and then they call him a Nazi for wanting to protect the minority citizens of their cities from criminals. I'm beginning to wonder if there was something in the COVID vaccine that sent all these Democrats into massive losses of IQ points.
Bauer suggests that maybe it's time for Chicago residents to, quote, rise up against Mayor Johnson's incompetence. I'm Chad Groening.
U.S. and Israeli officials are meeting on a post-war plan for Gaza. Jared Halpern has more from the White House.
As Israeli leaders appear more likely for a large-scale military offensive in Gaza City, President Trump will gather here with top advisors on a comprehensive plan for post-war Gaza. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who is leading U.S. negotiations between Israel and Hamas, says the Trump administration is focused on Gaza's future.
We think that we're going to settle this one way or another, certainly before the end of this year. Hamas is now signaling that they're open to a settlement.
Witkoff says additional countries could also join the Abraham Accords, increasing the number of Arab countries opening diplomatic relations with Israel. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
And repeating our breaking news this hour, at least 5 children are injured in a shooting today during the first week of classes at a Minneapolis Catholic school. The police said the shooter is dead and there was no longer any active threat to residents. The school was evacuated, and students' families later were directed to a reunification zone at the school. Again, we're told at least 5 children were treated at a hospital. No word yet on fatalities. More news available online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
God is at work and He's calling His people to rise in truth. Truth Rising is a powerful new documentary from Focus on the Family and the Colson Center. See how ordinary Christians choose courage in a culture that needs truth. Watch Truth Rising starting September 5th and find out how you can be a part of the change and become an agent of restoration. Sign up at truthrising.com. That's truthrising.com.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. Tim, Ed, Wesley, and now Chris Woodward, back from Israel.
Yes.
How many days were you over there?
6 or 7. Felt like about 2 weeks.
And
We
you
got
went-
a lot crammed in.
The Ministry of Tourism for the country of Israel invited you, and J.J. Jasper went, and who else? Who else?
John Riley.
John Riley, y'all three?
We did. 3 amigos. John's actually still there. He stayed for a few more days, and his wife and one of his children is going to meet him there tomorrow, I think.
He has
They have
family.
family.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, your first time there?
It was my first time. Totally just
blown away.
Mind blown. Yes, I knew, like a lot of people, I had a basic knowledge of the history and whatnot in terms of who all has lived there and developed things over the years. But I did not expect that I would see all the things that I saw. And it is not a stretch of the imagination when somebody says, or you hear somebody say, that you can see things that Jesus himself saw. When you're on the Sea of Galilee, you can see Tiberias there, but pretty much the hills and the mountains are just as they were 2,000 years ago. And that's just one example. Dead Sea, En-Gedi, Masada, all kinds of places.
Capernaum.
Yes.
Sea of Galilee.
And, even if you've been before, I've been 10, 15, 20 years ago, go back because they're finding things now and they're starting to excavate those things. We saw things at the City of David that the public is not going to be able to see for a couple of more months. Underneath the City of David, the Pool of Siloam, all kinds of things. So do go back if you've already been.
Yeah, well, great. I'm glad you had a great experience. Everything went well except you were telling us in our show prep meeting this morning you had the unfortunate circumstance of being trapped by a crying baby, sitting by a crying baby on the flight over or flight back?
On the way over to Tel Aviv, there was a baby that cried, bless her heart, like the entire flight.
That's 10 hours.
Yes. And then on the way back.
That'll make you lose your religion.
Yes. There was a lot of prayer in that time.
Oh, I'm sure there was, Chris.
For both the child and for the parent. I'm sure the parents felt bad too because nobody, you don't want to be on the flight. And,
Don't make
and have
us
that
feel
thing
bad.
happen.
We're having fun with this.
Now, on the way back, no crying kids, but the guy next to me, the gentleman next to me, fell asleep and fell over on me. And I didn't know what to do, so I'm just sitting there with
he was an Orthodox Jew.
Yes.
He had the hat on and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So he was leaning against an unclean Gentile.
Right. And so I'm sitting there mentally debating, do I tap him and tell him, sir, I may be unclean? I don't need whatever, So I just let him sleep, but he didn't.
He didn't have his hat on because that would have grown into your eyeball.
Oh, he did. He did.
Oh, he did have his hat on?
Yes. He was full garb.
But I mean, hat on while he crashed into you.
Yes. He sat leaning up against me
Okay. All right, this is a question I want to ask Wesley and Ed.
Yeah.
We know what Chris did. He let the man use his shoulder to
I
sleep
bared
on.
his burdens.
He did.
Yeah, apparently.
A Gentile, no less.
Yeah.
Chris is. What would you have done in that circumstance?
I would have flicked his ear and
Would you?
woken him up. No, I would
Flicked
not.
his
I wouldn't
ear?
have flicked his ear. I could get arrested for assault. I would have.
You would have said, "Sir."
I said, "Excuse me, sir."
Yeah,
sir. We're not doing this for 10 hours, 12 hours.
Okay.
I wouldn't.
No, that's how
bluster.
people from Boston talk.
I would have said, "Sir," or I would have cleared my throat, or gently nudged him awake and said, "Lean on the other person."
All right, Wesley, how would you handle this?
So what I would do is I would unbuckle my seatbelt first.
Yes.
Then I would get my feet out on the aisle, and then I would pull out, watch him fall.
Watch him fall over?
Yeah, that's what I would do.
That would wake him up, though.
You know what? I like that.
But did you know what?
Because I had to go to the bathroom.
Yes, there you go.
You didn't even have to talk to him then.
Nope.
Okay.
Right.
I'm saying anything. Bathroom break.
And let this be a lesson to you, sir. You don't lean on someone else on a long flight.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then I would say, I'm 67 years old, and
do what you want
this
now.
is probably
You
going to happen
graduated.
3 or 4 more times before we land.
Yeah. You've graduated at 67 years. What is it, 64?
What's that?
What you said your age, right?
Yes, 67.
Yeah, 67. You get to do what you want when you graduated in.
So I was just going to tell the gentleman I'm going to the restroom, and you might as well lean on someone on
okay.
the other side.
Yeah,
I'm going to be getting up.
Lean on somebody on the
I
other
thought
side.
it was
Make it somebody else's problem.
thought it was the old man joke that we don't have filters anymore type thing.
Oh,
that too.
well, it's clear I don't have one.
Yeah,
but
well,
no,
I would have pushed. I would have probably used my hands and pushed his shoulder
gently, so that he
gently, so, and then I would have said in Hebrew, "What is wrong with you?"
in Hebrew. Well,
That's one thing I could.
I can't speak Hebrew like you can. Tell us how would that sound?
What is wrong with you?
Yes, but say it in Hebrew.
You would use his phone.
Yeah, I usually do use a translation. So I would have talked into my phone and then let it talk back to the man.
Your phone is supposed to be on airplane mode, sir.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
that didn't go the way you thought it was going to go, did it?
Good point. Well, anyway,
we probably need.
I don't think there's any right or wrong right there.
No,
I think Chris handled it well. He just said, "I'm going to let this man who's of the tribe of Benjamin sleep on my shoulder. Maybe some of that good fortune will rub off on me."
Yeah,
I did ask him if he drooled on him, and he said no.
We don't need to.
Thank the Lord. Oh, a couple of other things that did surprise me. Number one was the Alabama store in Jerusalem.
You sent a picture, or you posted it on Facebook.
Let me tell you, if Nick Saban ever needs to make a few shekels, he should just randomly stand outside that Alabama store and see if people
that's in
notice
the old city
it
of Jerusalem. Yeah, it's got roll tide stuff. They got a lot of signs over there that says "Shalom, y'all."
Yeah, I bought a couple of magnets. that
Oh
said
wait,
that.
are you kidding?
Yeah, no, I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
So
a
the
novelty.
Alabama store is real, and then
they change depending on who wins the championships.
Yeah.
They'll be Buckeyes over there now.
Yeah, if they fail to make the playoff, their stuff may be on sale.
Yeah.
But one of the other things that I noticed was largely missing was over there, and I was surprised by this because in Israel they have like every Coke, soda, pop known to man, pretty much. But one thing that I could not find anywhere, and my tour guide had never even heard of it, was Dr. Pepper.
Really?
Yeah, they have 7-Up over there, but they don't have Dr. Pepper. It was weird because I even asked her, I said, one thing I've not seen over here is Dr. Pepper, and she said, "What is that?" And right then I was like,
You're very observant, Chris.
Well, are you a Dr. Pepper
I am
fan?
a Dr. Pepper fan, yes.
So he was wanting
He was
to
looking
order
for
it.
a Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
And in my
A
house, we
holy
call it
Dr.
pop.
Pepper.
Yeah. Right.
Like holy water. It's a holy Dr. Pepper. In the holy
He's a great physician.
Yeah.
Dr. Pepper.
All right, you're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. What's your first story?
Your first real story.
By the way, do we have any update on the Minneapolis shooting?
Well, it's going to depend on the outlet that you go to, but I checked a couple of different sites just before I came in here. Various news outlets are saying at least 2 dead, 20 injured, and one of our television screens moments ago said children are among the dead.
It's I'm looking. It says 2 children dead, and the shooter himself is also deceased.
This will be our lead story for the rest of today, pretty much. So do stay with American Family News, radio and print-wise, because we will stay on top of this for everybody.
If you haven't heard, a couple of hours ago or so in Minneapolis, at a Catholic school, somebody went in and opened fire on a bunch of people, including a lot of children. It sounds like they were in a mass, M-A-S-S, like in a Catholic worship service is what I'm talking about. And this happened, and the news, both CNN and MSNBC and now I guess Fox reporting that, and the hospital, the shooter is dead. 2 kids have died, and there are 17 others who are, including 14 children and 3 adults who are injured because of the shooting. Now, this is the Minneapolis mayor I'm watching here. I know that people can't see this. It's on the BBC. He's ranting. I don't know. He's a very liberal guy. My guess is he's going off on
guns.
My guess is he's calling it gun violence.
Yeah, if he's not, some Democrat today will mention
now,
Trump and
I've
guns.
seen on one of the screens here, again, we have 4 major news outlets. We can see their video feed, that the shooter used a long gun, a rifle. So the discussions about gun control, which usually revolve around handguns,
right?
is not applicable here if that's what the mayor is. And he does look like he's ranting, Tim.
Okay, explain to me, for those who aren't knowledgeable on a lot of the differences between guns. You're talking about a long gun. I know what a handgun is. I know what a long gun is, but would this be an automatic weapon or no?
There isn't. An automatic weapon is illegal anyways.
Right.
You can't have an automatic weapon.
But when you say long gun,
Without
when you say
a
long gun,
certain
I'm
permit.
thinking of a deer hunting rifle.
Yeah.
It's long and it's a gun.
You're right. I should have clarified. We don't know what kind of long gun.
Yet. It could have been something that had.
But I was assuming that it meant that they were talking about a hunting rifle, but it could be what people
semi-automatic.
It could be a semi-automatic. What people refer to, usually in the media or on the left, as a quote-unquote assault rifle, which is technically no different than a hunting rifle.
Okay.
But it just looks in its functions.
But it looks like it's an AR-15.
Yes, and it looks like it's a military weapon. But a
Appearance
military
wise,
weapon would be
automatic,
fully automatic,
or 3-round burst, or you can interchange it.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, you're listening to Today's Issues. What's your story, Chris?
Well, President Donald Trump may be in the White House again, and he may have an executive order saying no more males and female bathrooms and safe spaces, things like that. But that's not stopping rulings coming out in favor of so-called transgenders. Case in point here, judge dismisses Wyoming sorority case on transgender member, citing expansive definition of woman or woman. This is a case that we've been covering for several years now at AFN.
That particular case?
Yes, this particular case has been going on since at least 2022. So there's a guy named Artemis Langford who claims to be a female and wants to be in the Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority. And he's
who wouldn't?
Right. So Artemis actually got so far as to be able to live in the sorority house, but the girls, the actual females in the sorority, said, this is not right. I feel that it's uncomfortable for me. I have Title IX rights. This shouldn't be allowed. But they end up going to court. It goes up and down the court system, in and out of court. And yesterday, a judge by the name of District Judge Alan B. Johnson dismissed former University of Wyoming students' lawsuit against their sorority for allowing a biological male to join their group, ruling that the sorority can define women as it chooses. In his ruling, the judge wrote that the organization clearly showed in documents that it defines women by their gender and not their biological sex, talking about the university.
So the sorority itself doesn't have a problem with him being in the house?
Yeah, there were some people involved with the sorority that were fine with him, or at least they publicly declared that, a man should be able to do this if he claims to be a female. But the girls were like, this is not right. And they've tried to get a judge to toss him out.
You talk about an increase in sororities. if you're gonna allow 19-year-old boys to live with 19-year-old girls,
yes,
all they got to do is claim to be a girl to live in the sorority house.
Yeah,
that's gonna be an uptick in men. Ed.
Yeah, but then the boy, then the fraternity numbers
don't try
are going
to drag me into this. You said,
does my reasoning not hold up?
You said at the beginning when Chris was saying this young man wanted to be in the sorority.
Yeah,
you said, who wouldn't? And I was thinking, well, you wouldn't. I wouldn't. And none of the other married guys here would, but you're talking about single men.
Yeah,
in a college,
in a college setting. Listen,
who are pretty high on hormones about that age. Am I right?
Yeah,
yeah. There's
a problem here.
There's a potential problem.
Yes.
Well, and this is Wyoming too. It's not Berkeley.
Yeah, it's one judge though. I bet it'll be overruled. But how long is that taken to get through the court?
It's been at least 3 years.
And part of the problem with these is these happen in college, and by the time these young ladies get any kind of legal satisfaction, they're out of college.
Oh, yeah.
Their lives have already been.
They're only doing it for those who come behind them, so to speak.
Yeah. I will say this too, and I'll keep it PG, but we've actually talked to members of the sorority in our coverage of this in the past. I couldn't find that audio, but they were talking about how they're at home wearing their pajamas and stuff like that, like any of us would do when we're in our own homes and whatnot. And they talked about how Artemis he seemed excited to be around the girls in their pajamas. And
really,
it made
Chris?
them even more uncomfortable. Yes.
Imagine that. a 19 or 20-year-old boy.
Right.
Thank you for that PG.
Let's move on.
Yes.
Chris?
I mean, I had.
Well, you.
No, that's I
about as
understand.
family friendly as you could get there,
Yes.
Chris.
You notice I'm quiet.
Yeah, you're quiet.
Okay.
Chris is going to move on to the next
Or
story.
they say if you don't have
As
anything
in
to
right
say.
now,
Yes.
Chris.
Okay. There is a Fox News story here.
Uh-huh.
President Trump opens door to 600,000 Chinese students among Beijing trade talks.
Boo.
Several people have been concerned about the large number of Chinese communists studying here in the U.S. at our universities.
Yeah.
But President Trump appears to be okay with allowing at least 600,000 Chinese students. And it could be because of the ongoing
Listen.
trade talks with Beijing.
Okay, I was booing from the gallery, from the peanut gallery here. This is, I don't have a problem with people from around the world, students from around the world coming to the United States to
Study.
Even from China,
Go back.
even from China or other countries that aren't American friendly necessarily. I don't have a problem with that. I'm booing because I don't like President Trump using the idea of allowing 600,000 Chinese students to come here as a negotiation, as a negotiating tool when it has to do with trade. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And let me just utter an opinion that's different from yours, Tim.
Okay.
I do have a problem with people coming here from countries that are our enemies. Now,
China's not our enemy, are they?
Well,
we trade with them like crazy.
We do.
Well, we should. That doesn't mean we should, though.
I view them as an existential threat to our country. I think they are, and according to military sources, the Chinese have made it clear that they are preparing their military to take Taiwan by 2027. And when that happens, I believe they will attack our bases in the Western Pacific and might float a weather balloon over the Midwest. Who knows what they're going to do, and detonate an EMP.
You don't have stories. Go ahead.
Yeah, and they are building up their military to such an extent that they literally threaten the U.S. military in the Pacific. I also believe...
They don't call you encouraging Ed for nothing.
Yes. So I also believe Iran's a threat. North Korea's a threat. Some of these countries that are clearly our enemies, I think we should send their students home. And because you know what? It's not our fault that their country wants to do us harm. And so we look askance at students. What President Trump is doing is wrong. Okay? This is wrong. Letting 600,000.
Now, he's not doing it yet. He's suggesting it, right? Am I right? Or is he doing
Well,
it?
he's shifting his tone on the issue, so he's moving in that direction.
All right. Hold on. Shifting tone which way?
Well, we got to remember earlier this year, you had people like Secretary of State Marco Rubio, under the direction of President Trump, announcing plans to revoke visas for Chinese nationals, particularly those tied to the Chinese Communist Party.
Excuse me for interrupting here. I'm trying to clarify this situation. So yesterday, President Trump said what?
He said,
quote him, please.
Quote, I hear so many stories that we're not going to allow their students. We are going to allow their students to come in. It's very important. 600,000 students. It's very important, but we're going to get along with China.
All right. That's what I think is wrong, because there's already like almost 300,000 over here
right now.
And listen, China's buying up land around our military bases. I have zero doubt that if we were ever, and I'm like you, Tim, I hope we can get through this time without a war with China, okay? But if there ever was a war, I have zero doubt that many of these young military-age young males are over here for the express purpose of being a fifth column and wreaking havoc in our country to keep us busy while our military is trying to fight the Chinese. I don't trust them because they're communists. I know I sound like I'm from the 1950s, but I don't trust communists.
Yeah.
They are materialists. They believe we're animals. They have no Christian morality restraining them. Communists will do whatever it takes to beat their enemy. So
they subjugate their own people.
Yes.
With brutal authority.
Yes. So this is a mistake on the part of the president. I wish he would find other things to give. I don't mind trading with China at this point. But listen, the Chinese have stolen our intellectual property. Oh, there's all kinds of things.
Well, they've embedded spies, and not just like 3 decades ago, as in like last month.
Right.
July. I mean.
Well, and keep in mind, too, that a lot of people from America or other parts of the West come here and they go to one of our universities and then they graduate as a Marxist, pretty much. Like they've been indoctrinated. So you may end up with a situation where you have a Chinese communist that comes over here doing things he or she shouldn't. And then you have the person that grew up on the cul-de-sac in middle America that's going to be ideologically siding with these people. Yeah. They're not going to take up arms against them.
I think this is listen, Tim says this a lot. I love 95% of what President Trump's doing. He is heroic in what he's trying to get accomplished in a very short amount of time. But this is a mistake.
It's a bad one.
This is not a good move. That's my personal opinion.
And I hope that enough people make him aware of that he doesn't do it.
Yes.
Yeah. But you know how Trump is. As I say, with President Trump, you go good, great, good, and then you go good night. What are you doing? Huh? He said what?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
So that's just the way he rolls.
Well, and he's bold. He's very bold. He thinks outside the box. At times he's brilliant, but nobody bats 1,000.
I know, but look what he did with Iran.
Yeah,
he went over there and bombed their nuclear facility.
That was a brilliant, bold,
and bold move.
Courageous move.
He does things like that probably most other presidents would not do.
Yeah.
Nobody else would. George Bush.
So with any leader,
but he hadn't even done this yet. He just said he.
Right. That's what I don't think he'll do this. His point was he's probably wanting to butter up is it Xi? How's he pronounced?
Xi Jinping,
the leader of
China. He's basically the president of China.
He's wanting to butter him up so he can have an art of the deal moment or something.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's he says Trump says things oftentimes that he has no intention of doing, but he just throws it out there. And nobody talks more to the press in the history of being president than Trump. And in fact, I told somebody the other day, I said, Trump needs to take 3 days off from talking to the press at all.
Yeah. Just put a lid on it.
Just put a lid on it for 3 days and say, I don't have anything to say.
We're about to go into a holiday weekend.
That
was a good time.
I don't have anything to say about anything.
I don't have anything to say about anything.
Today's Friday. I'll be back unless not unless anything. Whatever happens, I'll be back on Tuesday to talk to y'all media folks. But until then, I'm gonna go golf, or I'm gonna go visit one of my homes or whatever.
Members of the media, they need a few days break to find their heads after they spin off. Sometimes, how do you find it?
How many heads do you have?
How do you find that?
They need to find themselves.
Yes.
Am I right? All right, you're listening to today's issues. Let's see.
Welcome back, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, this college football, the big day's Saturday.
Yes.
For the week one.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Week one of the college football season. So,
what are you going to be doing Saturday, Tim?
I'm gonna binge. What you call binge?
Binge. You're gonna binge watch.
I'm gonna binge on college football and escape my troubles.
You gonna go to church on Sunday, or will you be too tired?
Binging on college football?
Yeah.
Judge not.
Yeah, because hockey season's starting soon. Well, in October. I have to wait till October.
You have some self-awareness.
Yes.
See you tomorrow.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio. Hey, we're going to the Holy Land on a tour.